It's so nice. The spring is here, right? Like finally. It was a pretty mellow winter overall, but man, for 6 months out of the year, this place is cold. And we have learned so much about how to manage that. A big part of that is these guys having to come out twice a day, every day, irrespective of the weather, the conditions. We got to get out here. And so we've learned a lot about preparation, and that is so important to the work that we do with Dustin Tribe, which is getting people outside. And we thought this would be a great opportunity to talk about how to prepare for the cold in consideration of your next wilderness adventure. We don't have any more snow now, but there's still some up in Tahoe. And if you want to head out, we can go ahead and take a look at that. All right, cool. Let's get it. We are so fortunate to be as close as we are to such beautiful places. We want to talk about staying warm, or at least more warm than we might otherwise be if we didn't know what we're about to share. But I think just kind of having a look around you helps you understand why that's important. It's really hard to walk away from an experience like this, and the more time we can immerse ourselves in a setting like this, the more we're going to derive from the experience. And I'm telling you, this is transformational stuff. So the first thing that I want to talk about is just the miracle of our own bodies in terms of supporting our comfort outside. So we're like these little internal combustion engines, where these little furnaces. Our core temperature, you probably know, 98.7 degrees Fahrenheit, I think 37 degrees Celsius. And that heat, that internal heat, is generated through natural metabolic processes. When we eat food, there's a number of mechanical and chemical factors that come into play to extract nutrition from that food in the form of carbohydrates and proteins and fats and electrolytes and whatever else. And over the course of breaking down that food into those nutrients, heat is generated. Now, if we're out there hiking, working, doing things, a lot of that heat is going to be converted into mechanical energy that we're going to use. But if we're not employing that energy in some kind of activity, then it's going to get stored as fat. And we're going to come to fat, because fat is really, really important when it comes to being comfortable outside, or at least more comfortable. I got to keep reframing expectations, because the point of all of this is not to make sure that we are warm under all circumstances. It's to understand what we can do to optimize our situation, and then to reconcile ourselves to the experience that is less than what we would want, or different than what we would want. I think that's a better way to put it. So one of the things that we need to be conscious of when we're packing for our trips is the amount of calories that we intend to take with us into the wilderness. The more calories we have, the more heat energy we have to work with. Calories are actually heat units. Specifically, 1 calorie is the amount of heat energy required to raise 1 gram of water 1 degree Celsius. Now, food calories, and we're going to talk about chocolate here in a moment, because this is one of my favorite sort of wilderness cold hacks. Chocolate, this here says 160 calories per serving. A food calorie is actually 1,000 of these heat units. So when we see 160 food calories, that's actually 160,000 units of heat energy, the kind that I described. By the way, that's per serving. So there's a massive amount of heat energy in this chocolate. So what I like to do, in addition to all the other food that I might be packing for the day and munching on, after dinner, I tuck into my sleeping bag. I'm going to bring one of these, and there's a taboo against, having food in your tent, and that's because, predators might want to get at it, and that's a hassle. So what we do is we take just as much as we think we're going to eat, and this is my favorite send-off. Before I visit the Sandman, I take Tony's Chocolonely into my sleeping bag with me, and I munch that bad boy down, and that's going to give me that much more heat energy. Now, I'm not going to burn that through activity. I'm going to sleep, which means that my body is going to use that energy to effectively maintain my core temperature. And that's exactly what you want. Now, you've been working hard all day, eating those calories, eating your chocolate bar. and you've done a good job of allowing your body to generate this heat. Now you got to keep it from escaping. There's a misconception out there that, you know, a jacket makes you warm, a sweater makes you warm. These things don't make you warm. They don't have heats that they're contributing to this whole heat equation. What they do is they insulate you against losing all of that heat that you have worked so hard to generate. And so if I unzip my jacket here, you're going to see that I've got a flannel. Underneath that flannel, I've got a wool base layer. All of these layers work to trap the heat that my body is generating so it doesn't escape out into the atmosphere. In addition, I've got a beanie to keep heat from escaping off the top of my head. Gloves might be a good idea in a cold situation. Socks, heavy socks. Wonderful idea. You know, situations are different, so whatever you need, but the principle is to contain that heat. I've also got this scarf here to keep things from leaking out, which, by the way, this is a keffaya. It's been linked to the Palestinian resistance. So if you use this, you're not only going to keep warm, but you're going to do your part in dismantling the Israeli apartheid state, which is just a win-win. Now, in addition to insulating ourselves from heat escaping into the atmosphere, there's a principle of like thermal exchange, equilibrium. I don't know what it's called, but look it up and you'll find out. But there's this idea that if you got something cold and you got something warm and you put them together, the warm thing is going to lose heat to the cold thing until both of them are the same temperature. Now imagine this. You're 98.7 degrees. You're laying down on the earth that is what, 20, 30 degrees? You're going to lose, I don't know, 50 degrees or something to that earth, right? Because of this principle that apparently means equilibrium has to be established, and it's going to be established at the cost of heat leaving your body. We don't want that. So that's why we use sleeping pads. Before you put your sleeping bag down on the ground, you want a pad. A lot of people assume these pads are for comfort, and they are, but it's not because they're cushy. In fact, they're not that cushy. I don't know what we're talking about, maybe a 1/4 inch of thickness here. But what you're looking for is to create a barrier between you and the earth, a thermal barrier, something that restricts the conduction of the heat energy from your body into the ground. Now, one hack, this is a Nemo switchback, but I think a lot of sleeping pads are similar. There's a foil side or a more reflective side. That's the side that you want up. The idea is that theoretically it will reflect a little bit more heat energy back at you. Now, if it's really cold, we will bring a second inflatable sleeping pad. It's inflatable, so it's more compact, so it fits on our packs a little bit easier than strapping on another one of these. This is what is this? This is a Sea to Summit Ultralight Air, the regular size. They do have bigger ones for taller people. But we'll inflate that, and we'll put that on top of the closed cell foam sleeping pad for just that much more of a barrier against the loss of heat energy through conduction. And I think the sort of final practical thing that I want to talk about is the use of a sleeping bag liner. Now, I love liners when it's cold. This is sort of, I don't know, it's kind of like a body sock. They have some that, I think this is made out of like a jersey cotton. They have some that are made out of silk. But the idea is that this is basically going to be something that you slip into before going into your tents. And yeah, really just a big body sock. And it's just, again, one more layer. Now, one thing we haven't talked about yet is your sleeping bag. Obviously a critical piece of kit when you're out spending a night in the wilderness. Now you're going to need to do a little bit of homework. They are temperature rated. And so ideally you want to find something that is rated down to the temperatures that you expect to experience when you're outside. But hopefully compact enough that you can actually carry it with relative comfort. And that's the piece that a lot of us don't take into account. This sleeping bag that you've packed out 5 miles, 10 miles, 15 miles is all compressed when you remove it from your pack and you get it set up. So you want to set up your sleeping bag really, really early. Make it one of the first things you do when you get to camp. And that'll give the loft, whatever it is. It might be some polyester fiber, it might be duck down, it could be any number of fill materials, but all of that's going to be compressed. And you want that to expand because the more air that is trapped in that loft, the more of an insulating barrier you have. So maybe you've done everything right. You've consumed the calories, you've got the appropriate layers on, you've laid out your sleeping bag so that all the loft can puff up, you've got your sleeping pads dialed in, you've got your sleeping liner, you're all tucked in, you've ate your chocolate, you're ready to go. Are you gonna be warm? I mean, I hope so. You know, and that's something that we touched on earlier is it's expectation management. I think one of the incredible gifts of the wilderness is just how much it reminds us that we're not in control, that there are experiences that we've sort of engineered our way out of in the more settled areas, what we might call civilization, the suburbs, the city, whatever. You've got, you know, climate control and all of these things, and you can dial things in so that you're just perfectly comfortable. And we lose sight of the growth opportunities that are attached to discomfort. So I want to spend just a couple of minutes talking about the fact that when you inevitably feel some cold, even after you've taken all appropriate measures, there is so much value in that. There is research that documents the boost to our immune system through short bursts of intense cold. There is research that supports mood elevation and reversing depressive symptoms through exposure to extreme cold. There is science around long-term long-term exposure to cooler temperatures, not the shocking extreme temperatures that boost your immunity and stuff, but I'm talking about, like, you know, allowing yourself to experience temps in the, you know, upper 40s, lower 60s, just as a matter of course. And that results in the generation and accumulation of something called brown fat. The body stores fat in two forms. White fat, which is the sort of insulating barrier, very much like the sleeping pad situation. And that is the fat that kind of coats our organs and prevents conductive heat loss from those vital organs to the outside of our body. But it doesn't liberate energy very easily. Brown fat, however, is a form of fat, they also call it adipose tissue, that stores energy and releases it immediately when it's needed. And you can't really build up those stores unless you trigger your body to recognize the need to develop that tissue for the purposes of that storage. And how do you do that? Through prolonged exposure to cooler temperatures. What I'm getting at is, on some level, we want to embrace the cold as fundamentally beneficial, not something to be avoided at all costs, but something to really embrace and appreciate. And that's what this sort of prolonged discussion about physiology is. Now, I got one more tip for you. We've been spending a lot of time talking about our bodies, and I want to focus for a moment on our minds. Our minds are an incredible tool, especially in bridging that gap between doing everything physically possible to make ourselves warm, and then our minds can help us reconcile the fact that we're not as warm as we would like to be. And we do that through visualization and reframing. So a lot of us might have negative associations with cold. We link it to things like snow and rain and wind and things that just feel uncomfortable. But you know what else? Be as the mint. That's what I say. Okay. Yeah, be as the mint. Yeah, you've had mint toothpaste and mouthwash, and you've had mint candy, and if you're fortunate and you run around in the circles that we do, you've had delicious Moroccan mint tea. It's refreshing, it's invigorating, it introduces coolness, but it does so in a way that feels vital and bracing. So when you're feeling cold, when you're feeling chilled, use your mind to imagine yourself as a sprig of mint. My feet are bare, and I'm imagining that I just spilled mouthwash all over my feet, and it's fantastic. It feels invigorating. I'm not making it up. I am making it up, but you can do that. It's powerful, super powerful. I wear this big old beanie because I can kind of roll it down like that, because I gotta tell you, even my little mint trick, It doesn't work for my nose. I don't like having a cold nose at night. But listen, man, if you all have tips and tricks that we didn't mention here to help stay warm, just drop them in the comments. We'd love to learn. All right, good night.